It was a night unlike any other, and no one saw it coming. The studio lights were bright, the cameras rolling, and millions of eyes glued to their screens when Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat down for a primetime interview. The subject was supposed to be policy, a routine conversation about legislation and governance. But as the host leaned in with a question about recent political scandals, Crockett paused. Her eyes narrowed ever so slightly, and the air in the studio changed. Something was coming, something big. With a calm but commanding voice, she began. "I've held this for long enough," she said, folding her hands deliberately in front of her. "The American people deserve to know the truth." The host blinked, uncertain of what she meant. And then she dropped it, the bombshell that would reverberate through every corner of the media, political circles, and Trump's inner orbit. Crockett revealed that during a closed-door congressional inquiry, evidence had surfaced. Phone records, financial statements, even encrypted messages that painted a disturbing picture of Donald Trump's personal dealings. But it wasn't about money laundering or foreign collusion this time. It was personal. It was about his marriage to Melania. This wasn't just a marriage in name, Crockett said slowly. It was a contract, a carefully negotiated $4-day bullet-pointed deal. The audience gasped. The host froze, and somewhere in Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump was watching. Within minutes, the internet exploded. Hashtags trended. Clips were clipped and re-clipped. People demanded answers. Crockett, undeterred, continued. She spoke of a hidden clause Melania allegedly included in their prenup that gave her the ability to renegotiate their public appearances. Every touch, every smile, every trip together. There were invoices, schedules. She had receipts. Trump, watching live, erupted. According to aides later interviewed under anonymity, he screamed at the TV, threw his phone across the room, and demanded immediate retaliation. "She's lying, she's lying," he roared, pacing back and forth in a robe, hair in a chaotic swirl, as if he'd just lost control of the very image he spent decades crafting. But the rage was deeper than the surface. This wasn't just an attack, it was exposure. Melania, said Crockett, had allegedly refused to move into the White House after the 2016 election, not out of loyalty to Barron, as publicly stated, but because her performance contract hadn't yet been finalized. According to the leaked documents, she negotiated a post-nup that guaranteed certain lifestyle perks and a silent exit if needed, something that insiders now saw as a calculated insurance policy. Trump's camp issued a statement within hours calling the claims baseless, vindictive, and defamatory. But the damage was already done. Crockett, when asked why she released the information now, simply said, "Truth has a shelf life, and I'm not letting this expire." What made the whole event so wild was how Trump responded next, not through a calm press release or a controlled TV appearance, but with a chaotic live stream from his golf course bunker. He ranted for 45 minutes straight, his words barely coherent, alternating between threatening lawsuits and accusing everyone from the Clintons to the Easter Bunny of orchestrating an elaborate smear campaign. In the video, which quickly went viral, Trump waved a stack of papers, which he claimed were love letters from Melania, proving their genuine bond. "She tells me I'm the greatest. She says I'm better than Lincoln in bed," he bellowed, turning bright red. Better than Lincoln. The comment section exploded with disbelief, laughter, and a million memes before the live stream was abruptly cut. But the damage wasn't contained. In fact, it was just beginning. The next morning, Melania's team, notably silent during the eruption, issued a single-line statement. "Mrs. Trump will not be commenting on speculative drama." That was it. No denial, no defense, just the kind of silence that echoed louder than words. Conspiracy forums went wild. Cable pundits speculated for hours. Analysts called it a political nuclear bomb. Meanwhile, Crockett's approval ratings soared. People who had barely known her name the day before were now quoting her. "Truth has a shelf life" became a rallying cry across social media. Trump, in contrast, doubled down. He posted over 70 times in a single day on Truth Social, ranting about Crockett, calling her Jazzy the liar, woke witch, and even bizarrely comparing her to a lesser-known Beyonce with worse manners. But Crockett didn't flinch. In her next appearance, she simply smiled and said, "I don't respond to noise, I respond to facts." And then she dropped more texts between a Mar-a-Lago staffer and a legal aide discussing the wife optics, a calendar with code names for planned public dates, and a leaked photo of a contract with Melania's signature blacked out but clearly recognizable. This wasn't tabloid gossip. This was political theater at its most raw, and Trump was unraveling. Insiders claimed he became increasingly paranoid, asking aides if they had spilled anything, and threatening to fire his entire communications team. At one point, he even reportedly asked Barron if his mother had gone rogue. Barron reportedly just shrugged. What shook Trump the most, however, was that his base, usually quick to rally, was split. Some waved it off as a smear job, but others, particularly women voters who had long felt gaslit by the Trump-Melania happy couple a facade, started asking questions. Was it ever real? Had they been lied to for political points? Was Trump's entire image just another illusion? As Crockett continued to drip more evidence over the next week, Trump tried to pivot, attempting to steer the conversation back to immigration, inflation, and Sleepy Joe. But no one was listening. The fire had been lit and it wasn't going out, and so the story lingered not just because of its scandal, but because of what it revealed. That even the most powerful images can shatter under the weight of truth, especially when it's delivered live with confidence by someone who refuses to be bullied. Jasmine Crockett didn't just expose a contract. She exposed a man terrified of losing control of his own narrative, and as the nation watched him spiral, many realized that sometimes it only takes one voice to break the illusion. The moment Jasmine Crockett uttered the words, "The American people deserve to know the truth," the entire tone of the interview shifted, not just in the studio, but across the country. That one line, simple yet seismic, held more than a promise of transparency. It was a signal flare that something hidden, long buried under layers of image and manipulation, was about to be unearthed. Crockett wasn't just speaking to the camera, she was speaking directly to the people who had, for years, watched the Trump family with fascination, suspicion, or reverence. It was as if she pierced through the thick smog of manufactured narratives and touched something raw, unfiltered, and deeply real. That sentence echoed in living rooms, boardrooms, and social media timelines like a bell announcing a reckoning. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. There was no performance in her voice, no theatrics or political grandstanding. She didn't lean on usual political jargon or vague insinuations. She was deliberate, calm, and almost chilling in her precision. It made the truth feel heavier, sharper, and far more personal, and what followed validated the gravity of that opening line. She laid out evidence, not whispers, not rumors, but documentation, digital footprints, and legal markers. She wasn't tossing grenades for attention. She was building a case, brick by damning brick. By framing her revelation with that phrase, Crockett placed the public at the center of the issue. It wasn't about her or Trump or even Melania anymore. It was about the people who had been fed a storyline for nearly a decade, one rooted in strength, unity, and success. A storyline crafted like a television series, complete with characters, catchphrases, and camera-ready scenes. Crockett disrupted that illusion by saying, essentially, "You've been sold a lie and I can prove it." That's why her statement resonated so deeply. It didn't ask for belief, it invited awareness. The strength of that one sentence lies in its implication that truth, for all its discomfort, is a public right. It challenged the long-standing game of smoke and mirrors in American politics. In saying the people deserve to know, Crockett didn't just reference Trump's private life. She implicitly condemned the broader culture of deception that had insulated him for years. This wasn't about salacious gossip. It was about the integrity of leadership, the trust placed in public figures, and the consequences of betrayal, emotional, political, and cultural, and the aftermath proved how threatening that truth was. The moment Trump saw that clip, according to multiple reports, he erupted not just in anger, but in panic. The rage wasn't just about exposure, it was about the loss of control. For someone who had spent decades curating an image of dominance, wealth, and command, the idea that someone, especially a young black congresswoman, could crack that facade on national television was unbearable. His tantrum wasn't just personal, it was existential. That reaction alone validated Crockett's words more powerfully than any document ever could. In a culture saturated with half-truths, spin, and performative politics, that phrase became a compass. The American people deserved to know the truth, stopped being a line from an interview, and started becoming a demand. Viewers didn't just react to the drama, they began to question everything else. What else had they accepted as fact without proof? What else had been presented as authentic, only to be exposed as strategy or manipulation? Crockett's sentence cracked open not just Trump's image, but the entire machinery that supported it. The phrase gained a kind of sacredness in the days that followed. It appeared in protest signs, tweets, think pieces, even memes. But more than a trend, it became a challenge to the status quo. Politicians on both sides of the aisle were asked tougher questions, journalists dug deeper, the public, jolted out of passivity, began to demand answers in ways they hadn't before. Crockett had, in one sentence, shifted the weight of accountability, not onto herself, but onto those who had long operated above consequence. And there was something poetic about it, too. For years, Trump had wielded language as a weapon. Blunt, repetitive, often cruel. He built catchphrases that became chants. He used insults as rallying cries. But in the end, it was a simple sentence of integrity that unraveled his composure. Not an attack. Not a smear, just the truth, laid bare with no fanfare, and it shook him to his core. What made the moment even more powerful was Crockett's restraint. After delivering the statement and laying out her evidence, she didn't gloat or spike the ball. She didn't mock Trump or make the moment about herself. She let the silence speak. She let the gravity settle in, because she understood that real truth doesn't need amplification. It just needs to be heard, and once it is, it can't be unheard. In hindsight, that one line might be remembered as the sentence that began the unraveling. Not because it was explosive, but because it was undeniable, because it struck something deeper than partisanship or political rivalry. It spoke to a collective fatigue with deception. It reminded people that they were not just spectators in a circus, but citizens in a democracy. And in doing so, Crockett didn't just expose Trump. She reignited the public's hunger for honesty, and that, more than any scandal or secret, might be the most powerful revelation of all.